Sometimes in winter, forgotten memories remember you behind the trees with leaves that cry. By the window once I waited for you, laughing slightly you would run. Trees alone would shield us in the meadow, making love in the evening sun. Now you're gone, girl, and the lampposts call your name. I can hear them in a spring of frozen rain. Now you're gone, girl, and the time slowed down till dawn. It's a cold room, and the walls ask where you've gone. Seem like memories in the spring that never came. Sometimes in winter, I wish the empty streets would fill with laughter from your tears to ease my pain.
Que eu quero passar, pois o samba está animado. O que eu quero é samba. Este samba que é misto de maracatu. É samba de preto veio, samba de preto do. Mas que nada, samba como esta tão legal. Você não vai querer que eu chegue no final. Que eu quero passar, pois o samba está animado. O que eu quero é samba. Este samba que é misto de maracatu. É samba de preto veio, samba de preto do. Mas que nada, samba como este tão legal. Você não vai querer que eu chegue no final.
We come into this world unknown, but know that we are not alone. They try to knock us down, but change is coming. It's our time now. Hey, everybody loses it. Everybody wants to throw it all away sometimes. And hey, yeah, I know what you're going through. Don't let it get the best of you. You'll make it out alive. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. Hey, this is not a funeral, it's a revolution after all. Your tears have turned into rage. Just wait, everything will be okay. Even when you're feeling like you're going down in flames. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. They can't do nothing to you, they can't do nothing to me. This is the life that we choose, this is the life that we lead. So throw your fists in the air, come out if you dare. Tonight we're gonna change forever. Everybody loses it. Everybody wants to throw it all away sometimes. Oh, people like us, we gotta stick together. Keep your head up, nothing lasts forever. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. We are all misfits living in a world on fire. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us. You just gotta turn it up loud when the flames get higher. Sing it for the people like us, the people like us.
It's UUCC Zoom-In Live with special guest Steve Doell. Here's your host, David Cantor, and with guest host Will Barrett. Woo!
Well, here we are, off to a cracking start in 2021. Hi, David Cantor here with my co-host Will Barrett. Say hello, Will.
Hello, everyone.
Well, this is our first episode of 2021, of course. So wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. And with the expectation that even with what happened last Wednesday, this has got to be a better year than 2020, don't you think?
I think so.
So I'm hoping that'll end up being the case. So, Will, how'd you spend your New Year's?
Oh, so one of my friends from Kent State, she had moved to Florida last year. She had came up for the holidays, so I ended up hanging out with her and her cousin for most of that week, including New Year's Eve.
Excellent. So, one of the things that I just caught last week, switching gears completely. So I was watching, I don't watch very often, but I caught an episode of Stephen Colbert. And on this episode of Colbert, he did the Colbert 15 questionnaire, which he said basically, as opposed to doing a normal interview with somebody, you could ask people these 15 questions. And if you ask people these 15 questions, you know who they really are. And he did it with 3 special guests. He did it with Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep.
Ooh.
Yeah. So anyway, so I thought that what we ought to do here is, Will, just this is everybody. This is an ad lib completely. I'm going to just ask Will a few of these questions. Will does not know the question, so I don't know what the answers are going to be either. So let's see what happens here now. Okay, well, this is like a lightning round, Will, so you can't take 10 minutes to answer each one. By the way, the third person was George Clooney. So, Will,
Okay.
best sandwich?
Best sandwich? Pulled pork sandwich.
Pulled pork. Your favorite action movie of all time?
Favorite action movie? I'll go with the generic Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious is pretty good. How about, Will, which would you prefer, apples or oranges?
Oranges.
Oranges. So Colbert would vehemently disagree with you, saying that basically you cannot dip an orange in peanut butter. So he'd always apples because he looks upon the fruit as being a peanut butter conveyance system. That's his thought. So, Will, you can listen to only one song forever. What's the song?
Listen to one song forever.
What song is it?
I guess I'd listen to Aquemini by Outkast.
Mm-hmm. And Will, grilled or fried?
Fried.
Mm-hmm. So, by the way, gangs, this is one other quick thing here about the listen to one song forever. So this is think about Tom Hanks and what you think Tom Hanks's song might be. Well, you don't have to make a guess at this. Just really think about for a few seconds. What song would Tom Hanks pick as his one song listen to forever? And you all got it wrong, because the answer to the question is the one song he would pick is Our Lips Are Sealed by the Go-Go's. He is absolutely a Belinda Carlisle groupie. So there you go. So a quick reminder for those of you who have not done it already, please use the chat function at the bottom of your Zoom screen to announce yourself. Make sure you send it to everybody and not just the panelists, because everybody wants to know that you're here, of course. If you've been with us before, thanks for coming back. If you're here for the first time, we're glad you're here. We hope being with us will be a habit that you get into every couple of weeks. And if you're enjoying yourself, which you obviously are because you're here, please tell your UUCC friends, the more the merrier. Another reminder, for those of you who've asked about this, if you have missed a past show and want to check it out, most, not all episodes, but most episodes are up on the UUCC YouTube channel. There are a couple of episodes that are being held up because we use music without permission. So we need to do some editing to get that music out of there before they'll be allowed on the site. And by the way, just so we're all clear about this, do not try to watch our show on YouTube in North Korea, Iran, Syria, or Cuba. The show is banned in those 4 iconic countries because of our theme song, People Like Us. So just so you know, don't try to watch that show there. One announcement that I have for you tonight here, if you're looking for other opportunities to hang out with your fellow congregants, we have a UUCC game night coming, sponsored by the membership committee, coming not this Saturday, but 2 Saturdays from now on January 23rd, 7 to 9 p.m. Join your fellow UUCC congregants for fun games in both team and individual formats, with some of your fellow members serving as show hosts for the evening. We'll be using Zoom for that too, of course. You'll be getting the link a day or 2 before the event. Again, that's Saturday, January 23rd, 7 to 9 p.m. Reach out to Allison Bastian if you have any questions about that. So that's tonight's commercial. Yes, I'll be there that night as well. I'll be there to help kibitz. So as many of you know, we've established the Jack Ulman Comedy Moment, where we hear some jokes from Jack. And of course, so those of you who were here last time know Jack ducked us last time out because he was in Florida. He's in Florida for the winter, and he ducked out on us to do some evening boating. We tracked him down tonight, kept him on land, and he's with us tonight. So everybody, please welcome Jack Ulman. Jack.
Hiya, David and Will. Glad to be back with you tonight. Coming again from sunny Florida. As you stated in the newsletter, I could not join the program last week because I was sailing on Lemon Bay on Florida's Gulf Coast. We were off Port Charlotte, south of Sarasota. As you may know, Port Charlotte was the home of vicious pirates hoping to seize Mexican gold in the olden days. By the way, do you know where the pirates ate in Florida? Arby's. You know a pirate's favorite alphabet letter? A lot of people think it's the R, but it's the C, matey, the C. Pirates down here fear only one living creature, and that's the Florida alligator. And if they get caught by one, they end up getting buried at Arlington. Finally, you know what killed Captain Hook?
What, Jack?
Jock itch. A terrible way to die, if you ask me. Well, that's it for my time with you. See you again live next week.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Bet you didn't know the answer to those questions, Will.
Nah, I was stumped.
So let's move on to our special guest for this evening. So our special guest tonight is Steve Doell, with a silent O in his name. He's a member of the UUCC board. In fact, he was the Reunified Congregation's first board vice president. In his day job, Steve works for the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections. When I first approached Steve about being on the show back in November, he asked me, don't you think that voting and elections and all that kind of stuff will be old news by January, that people won't care about this anymore? I told him I thought there'd still be intense interest in the topic, at least among our audience. So hopefully you will find our conversation tonight to be of interest. So gang, please give a big UUCC welcome to Steve Doell. So Steve, thanks for being here tonight. How are you doing this evening?
Great.
So we're glad you're with us tonight. So we're going to end up spending a bit of time with you, Will and I, asking you some questions. But one of the things we start with everybody about, of course, with COVID floating all around us, one of the things we ask everybody is, how you dealing with it? How you dealing with COVID these days? You still go to physical work every day? You working from home? How about seeing friends and what have you? How you handling all that stuff?
Yeah, I still go into work. Well, obviously during the election, I had to be working. So, I was there. So it's really kind of different for me because I'm getting up and going in every day, and I get a health check, and they take our temperature and all that stuff before we can go in the building, and we all have to wear masks, and there's a lot of, plastic around and stuff like that. But so it in a lot of ways for me, it really hasn't changed things much. I mean, obviously outside of that, like going to the store and, couldn't get together with family, holidays, that kind of stuff. It kind of, affected me that way. But
how's the traffic downtown?
What's that?
How's the traffic driving downtown?
Fabulous.
What are you missing the most because of COVID, Steve?
I think definitely getting together with family. Mom's in a assisted living, and she's limited to 30-minute visits once a week with 2 people. So my dad goes, and then my sister and I and Peggy kind of switch off who goes with him. But then there'll be a lockdown because somebody has tested positive there, and can't go in for 2 weeks. So but yeah, I think it's just been kind of tough visiting with family at a distance, especially in the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not being around family, I find to be a real troublesome thing as well. Yeah. Well, you have a few questions for Steve. Why don't you ask him?
All right. Speaking of family, let's get a little insight about your personal history. So, where are you from, and where did you go to school, and what was your family like growing up? What religion did you guys practice?
Okay. Well, I grew up in Medina County in Wadsworth, and folks are still there, obviously in separate households now, but I went to school at Dayton, University of Dayton, and studied American Studies and got a teaching gig or teaching certificate from there. No, as far as the rest of my family, I'm the middle child. I have an older
Me
sister and a
too.
younger sister, so it's kind of in between. I'm the only boy. So my mom's
Older sister and younger sister. Will, you have an older brother and a younger sister.
That's true, but you know, middle child is a middle child, regardless.
Yeah, we're the we have to we're always the judge, I think, breaking up fights and things like that.
So you're either the judge or you're the one that's excluded. There's no in between.
Oh, I'm hearing the violins playing in the background already. I'm excited for both of you guys, really, really.
So,
David
yeah,
doesn't understand our struggle.
Yeah. Oh well.
So, Steve, what religion did you grow up as?
Liberal Catholic. I kind of, well, I went to University of Dayton as a Catholic college, and I think that's where I learned about all these other religions and decided maybe I needed to investigate.
Is Dayton
yeah,
a Jesuit school?
No, Marianists.
Okay.
They're run by the Marianist brothers.
So, tell us about your family now. So you told us about your extended family. How about you? You know, tell us about your nuclear family now.
Okay, well, you know, most of you know Peggy Lagodny is my wife. We've been together quite a while. No, we started dating about 2008 and married in 2012. I have some news on that end. Peggy's daughter had a baby on Friday night.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, that's cool.
She was due January 21st, and they were supposed to have the shower on this last Saturday. So instead, the baby was there. So I guess I'm a step grandfather now. Her name's Evangeline. She's a real cutie. And I'm hoping to go see her on Thursday.
Outstanding. Where do they live? Where do they live?
They live in Middlefield, out in Geauga County. So it's a little bit of a hike, but not too bad.
So how did you so you grew up Catholic and you went to a Catholic college. So how'd you find UU?
It was years later. I was living in Pittsburgh, and married to someone else at the time, and she grew up with no religion at all. So I think she kind of had this feeling like she wanted to explore and find something. And I was kind of like, well, whatever, you know. So she started doing a kind of reconnaissance missions and going to Quaker meetings and some other stuff. And one day she came home, she said, I went to this Unitarian Universalist church and it's not too far away. I think you should come with me next week. And that was it. It was like, you know, a comfortable pair of shoes you try on that you just love to wear. That's how I finally felt, with, you know, all the different religions and different views of the way the world runs. I just felt a lot more comfortable in being able to explore my own spirituality and not being kind of pigeonholed into something that I felt the Catholic faith had done for too long for me. So yeah, that was about 1999 when I started going to UU Church. That was Sunny Hill outside of Pittsburgh in Mount Lebanon.
So how'd you find?
I'm familiar with that church.
How do you know that church, Will?
Oh, that was one of the that was the church that a lot of cons were held at. It's the
Oh, is
one
that
that's in the old barn, right?
Well, it's an old kind of mansion that was reconditioned.
Yeah.
But they retained the fireplace, which was this huge thing. I mean, small children could walk into this. It's how big it was. And you go to service on, in February, and there's this roaring fire behind the minister. It was really inviting. It was a really cool place.
So I think we need to understand how you got from Dayton to Pittsburgh and how you got from Pittsburgh to the society. So draw that. I know you can say that,
Okay.
but really, how'd
Well,
you get?
after Dayton, I tried getting a teaching gig, and I did a lot of subbing and living at my parents' house and making like back then it was like $40 a day for subbing at a high school, and it was like I did that for a year and a half, and I had the principal of Barrett High School tell me when I applied for an opening, she said, "Well, you're such a good sub. We don't want to lose you." I'm like, okay. So I decided to go back to school, and I dipped my toe in the water at Akron, getting a master's in history. And 2 weeks in, I was taking like 1 or 2 classes. I had applied for a graduate assistantship, and I guess there were a couple people that had to bow out. And so suddenly there was an opening. And so I went from just kind of doing this, couple classes and still teaching to full-time student. And the only place they had an opening was in the archives. So whereas most graduate assistants usually work with a professor and, are teaching, I was doing archive stuff. And once again, it was a situation where, wow, I really like this. It was kind of the reverse because I wanted to be a historian, but I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe I can reverse this and be someone who helps the historians. And I really liked it. I really got into it, processing collections and reading, old letters from way back when. My boss jokes that, what do archivists do? Is that we read dead people's mail. I really liked it, and once that was all wrapped up and I have a master's degree, I got a job at the Historical Society of Western Pennsylvania on a 2-year grant to process a bunch of collections, and ended up staying there, getting full time, and I was there over 12 years. So that was a lot of fun.
Of course, that begs the question about how you got from there to the society and how you got from there to the Board of Elections of Cuyahoga County.
Well, I got let go. What was 2004? It was like 12 of us that were let go. And at the time, I was working on a collaborative project with Western Reserve Historical Society. And I called them to say, I'm not the contact anymore. You're going to have to talk to David. And they're like, well, hey, we have an opening. Why don't you send us your resume? And one thing led to another. And there I was, hired at the Western Reserve Historical Society as the curator of manuscripts. But that didn't last long. About 3 years. I don't know. I think it was just one of these things where the chief operating officer we just never seemed to get along, and I don't know. Anyway, I got bounced in 2007. I was looking for a job then, very desperate. I had just bought the house less than a year before, and I started as a temp at Board of Elections just to make ends meet, and that was still like the general election for 2007, and then I got hired in full time in 2008 as in the absentee department. Actually, a newly formed absentee department. There were 4 of us that got hired in to work there, and And then I was a supervisor within a year, and just, the archive stuff, I kept trying, but you kind of get locked in, and things don't pan out as you want. And so so I kind of, I guess people say, you came in the back door. I guess I came in the steam vent. I don't know. It wasn't something I planned, but I do enjoy it though. I think there's something I always want to do something that you're helping people. And I thought this was a good thing to do. And so it's just, I've just stuck it out. It's county work, it's bureaucracy, and you get a lot of strange, things happening. And some people, you wonder how they're still working there, but you just kind of keep moving.
You're saying elections can have strange things happening. So let's roll right into that for a few minutes right now. So obviously, months after the election is over, election stuff is still in the headlines. Months after the presidential election took place. So I guess from talking to you as one of the people who has all the technical knowledge about this stuff, in what ways was this election truly different from other elections?
Well, obviously, COVID kind of, dominated a lot of the planning and things like that. Any presidential election is going to be monumental and takes a lot of planning, and it's a lot of work. And then to be thrown, that kind of it's like, okay, we gave you they ripped out a room on the first floor and opened this whole room up, so we had lots more space. We were all ready to have 48 stations and 100 something booths, and then they're like, no, you got to cram it out. You can't do that. You have to spread everybody out. And so trying to plan that out was a lot of fun. Luckily, the county laborers came in and trades came in, and some of you, I see some of your faces that are on this tonight, that you actually came down and voted down there, so you know what I'm talking about. But just gobs and gobs of shower curtains to create barriers between the voting booths, and then a switchback line thing, kind of like at Cedar Point, but yet all encased in plastic. When they first had it put up, I just thought it looked like a murder scene out of a Coen Brothers movie. It just all this plastic everywhere. It was really kind of creepy looking, and I'm like, I don't think this is gonna fly. So they were able to break open some of the spaces and make it like glass, so you can see in and see around a little bit better. But but just having to deal with all that too, and then keeping track of people when they're coming in. We had to we had to do temperature checks. We had to force people or strongly suggest that people wear masks, and some people didn't want to, and they didn't. So we had to squirrel them away somewhere else. And then the overarching, just the circumstances of the candidates, kind of just dominated things too. And we had a lot of people that came down to vote that had never done that kind of voting before. And so they're a little suspicious about how we did things. And so you had to kind of, it was like a whole PR campaign kind of to just keep people comfortable with the whole process. So, and obviously like vote by mail went through the roof.
I was going to ask you about that. So is voting by mail different from prior elections? I mean, I understand that a lot more voting by mail. Was the actual processes for voting by mail different this time from prior times?
No. Yeah, all the regular stuff was there. It was just the volume really picked up and early. I mean, we were getting like thousands of applications in June, which was, I mean, usually we didn't start until August. So just trying to keep up with the you know, the volume was the big thing. And then keeping our print vendor, you know, going too, because I don't know, Midwest Direct was the company, and they kind of, I think they bit off more than they could chew as far as contracts, because they were the main print vendor for Northeast Ohio and spilled over into Western Pennsylvania, and so we had some issues getting the ballot packs out when absentee opened, because they were just overwhelmed. They couldn't handle the volume too.
So is voting, how does voting by mail differ across counties and across states? So I'm assuming that, well, let me ask a dumb question first. Is voting by mail the same in Cowley County as is in Lorraine County and Summit County, or do different counties handle it differently?
No, it's the same. I mean, you know, you got to turn in an application that gets matched up with your voter record. Now, the application might look a little different. Each county can kind of do that, but there's elements that have to be there. And then the ballot pack, you know, everyone gets a paper ballot, ID envelope to seal it up and as a security kind of thing, a return envelope, instructions, you know, yeah, they're all pretty much the same. I mean, you know, the package might look a little different, but for the most part, that's it. And then even on the return side, I mean, you're getting these ballots back in these ID envelopes. You're once again matching up that information with the voter record and just verifying everything and ripping open envelopes and flattening out the ballots and scanning them away.
So how does that differ, or doesn't it differ from how other states do it? I mean, basically, is the process routinely the same state by state, and all the screaming about this and that is all just screaming about this and that? That's nonsense. It's all basically the same, or do states actually handle this stuff differently?
Oh yeah, there's 5 states: Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Hawaii have been doing what's called universal vote by mail for up to 20 years. And that's the situation where they just mail out a ballot to everybody. And you don't actually have election day voting. You get your ballot in the mail. They have drop boxes all over the place, or you can put it in the mail. And it seems to work fine. I mean, they've been doing that for years. And Nevada picked it up this year because of COVID issues. But it's just, you know, you didn't hear anything about any of those states having problems.
So does Ohio, or any other state for that matter, do things with voting by mail that makes it less secure than in-person voting? You heard all this blah, blah, blah about postmen dropping gobs of ballots by the riverbed in some state or other, or about somebody filling out 20 ballots, giving them to the postmaster, what have you. Is that real? Is that just a bunch of propaganda?
No, because you're always linked up to your registration record. So, you know, you really can't be. I mean, you'd have to. Yeah. Nope. Here's another guest joining us. You'd have to. I mean, somebody, I guess, could game the system and register under false names and then use those records to vote. But we would catch that in the registration process. So I don't know. I mean, and then, you know, your signature is on file, ID, birth date. You know, those are the 3 areas that you're focusing on when you're checking the ballots when they come back. Now, you talk about differences. I mean, that's how the state of Ohio does it. I mean, anyone can request an application or can request a ballot by mail. You don't need an excuse or reason or anything like that. That stopped in 2006 in Ohio. Now, some states do, though, like Texas, I know, Pennsylvania before this year. In fact, all the states around Ohio have this situation where you had to have some kind of reason to vote absentee, and it would be either you're going to be out of the state or age or confinement, something like that. Now, there are some states have situations where you have to have that ballot notarized, or a second witness needs to sign off on your ballot, which I never really understood how you would check those. But so Ohio really has a pretty good, I'd say, liberal system compared to a lot of other states. But then you have, like the five I mentioned, where it's just, yeah, everyone gets one, and you don't even have election day voting.
Are there any significant disagreements locally within the Board of Elections between the Democrats and the Republicans about how an election ought to be run? Are the Republicans saying everybody ought to vote in person on election day, and Democrats are saying everybody should vote by mail 3 months in advance, or is it pretty much a consistent point of view amongst the people who are in charge here?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty consistent. I mean, I haven't really heard of any arguments about different rules and stuff. I mean, you can go back 2007 through 2011. Come on. There weren't really any standardized rules governed by the state as far as like how you could operate your absentee program. So Cuyahoga County, we sent out applications to everybody. We set our own hours for early voting, and they were very generous. In fact, 2008, we were open every day for 35 days straight. So like 7 o'clock, I mean, I went back and looked at the hours, it was just unbelievable. So I would say Cuyahoga County has really been kind of out there as far as like trying to get people to vote, more people to vote across the board. So, and that's our board. Our board is 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and they're all, on board with letting that kind of voting go through. But the laws changed, new secretaries of state kind of put a clamp down on a lot of that, like especially mailing out the applications. But like, it was actually one of our Republican board members who recommended that we use drop boxes at the public libraries throughout the county, as we would have staff there certain days a week to take the ballots, then we would take them back to the headquarters, and so they wouldn't just be laying there, unsupervised. And Secretary of State said no, so that was, that was actually a pretty good idea, but
really good idea. So Steve, so obviously the last couple of months we've heard all this noise, starting with the president and going to others as well, screaming about how this method of balloting is no good, that method of balloting is no good, blah, blah, blah. So out of curiosity, do people in the industry, people, your counterparts and others who you work with in other states, regardless of party, do they listen to this stuff and think, what a bunch of nonsense noise this is? Or are there some legitimate concerns that people in the field have and debate about what really does work best and what doesn't work best?
No, I think we're all pretty frustrated and upset with the characterization of a lot of these voting systems. I mean, I mean, I know how we do it here in Ohio, so I know, that works. But to be hearing about all this other stuff about, well, like one thing that keeps popping up is this signature verification thing, and I'm not really sure what they mean by that. Like, I don't know how you would audit those after the fact, because you got an ID envelope, it's got a signature on it, you're verifying it with that voter's record. Then you open the envelope and the ballot goes over here, stub gets torn off as an anonymous ballot. So if months later you're looking at these envelopes and saying, well, these are all wrong, it's like, well, what are you going to do? I mean, the ballot's over there, and there's always like a two-step process. It's, it's not just me checking. I mean, there's other, like, ballots are handled by like 3 people before it's said, okay, this is good, send it on, so
it's not just the Steve Dell show.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think politics plays a lot into it, and I think the political party of certain supposed voters, it's like, oh well, we can't let them vote, is basically what's being said. I mean, Trump has come out and said that. It's like, well, if more people vote, then we lose. He's quoted as, I mean, that's kind of paraphrased, but he's said something like that. Well, so that becomes voter suppression, not not trying to let more people vote. It's a strange thing to do as far as I'm concerned. I mean, obviously job security, I want everybody to vote.
So I got one last at all this stuff here, because we're getting tight on time now. So where does voting logistics go from here? So if there are all the buzz, all this blah, blah, blah stuff, are there going to be any major changes in how we do things next time?
Well, there again, it becomes a political issue, but just from what I've been reading, I mean, if we're looking at, let's make this, the best system we possibly can. So one, you want a paper verification trail. So like Cuyahoga County, we're good on that because everybody uses a paper ballot, no matter what, whether you're voting election day, vote by mail, or early in person, it's a paper ballot. There's a verification. I mean, if there's ever any, we do an audit after the election, and we compare the numbers that, here's the numbers that were scanned in, and they match up perfectly when we do a hand count of these ballots. So paper, having some sort of paper backup, like touch screens, they should have some kind of paper recording in the system, so you can go back and do these audits and really verify for sure. Cybersecurity is obviously a big issue, so I don't see anybody going to any kind of online voting.
Yeah.
There are some systems that allow you to get a ballot electronically, and you might even be able to do something, like a touch screen kind of thing on your home computer, or a clicking kind of thing. But in the end, you're printing out your finished ballot. And I just, I think trying to do 3 different kinds of voting has just made it hard. I mean, that's why universal voting is probably the place that I think a lot of states are going to go, except for the fact, and this is where the politics comes in, is you have a lot of legislators in some of these states that just do not want to increase voting, and they're pretty blatant about it. I mean, down in Georgia, there's that Raffensperger guy. Everyone's cheering him on. He's standing up to Trump, but in a few months, he's going to be advocating to get rid of vote by mail, with no excuse.
Yeah.
He's on board with that. Down in Texas, they're having all kinds of issues with that too. The Democrats there are trying to push through a absentee voting where no excuse, and they keep getting pushback. And I just kind of look at it and go, what? I mean, maybe I'm just too idealistic and a little naive when it comes to things like that, but you got to look at it as like, it's very obvious this is a political thing, not, you're not trying to help voters, so.
So I got one last question before we go to break here, Stephen. It's not a question about voting. It's a question that we ask everybody. And it's, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
This is a tough one. Because my first instinct is the ability to fly. Because, I mean, you could just zip around and go anywhere you wanted. But I also kind of like the idea of time travel. Being able to go back and forth in time.
That's like flying in a sense. You're flying through time.
Yeah.
So, okay, gang, we're going to take a brief break now to get your questions for Steve organized. So if you have a question for Steve, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and ask it. Don't use the chat button for this. We'll get things organized for you to ask your questions when we return. In the meantime, our mid-show break with the song Ripple by the Grateful Dead. See you in a few.
I don't understand these questions.
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. Ripple in still water, when there is no pebble tossed, nor wind to blow, reach out your hand. If your cup be empty, if your cup is full, may it be again, let it be known. There is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in still water, when there is no pebble tossed, no wind to flow you choose. To lead must follow. But if you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. La da da da, la da da da, la da da, la da la da 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 da, la da da da, la da da da.
Well, that was Ripple by the Grateful Dead. No, I am not the deadhead here. The deadhead would be our special guest, Mr. Doell here. So I never asked you how many Grateful Dead concerts you've gone to.
Well, you know what they say, if you remember a Grateful Dead show, you weren't there. But maybe about 10 or 12.
Wow.
Wow,
That's an impressive amount.
That's like all the Deadheads, you know, that's what they do. So Steve, ready for some questions from the audience now?
What's that?
Ready for some questions from the audience now?
Sure.
Okay, so our first question comes from Mary Schatzman. Mary, you're up with Steve Doell.
Yeah, Steve, are you still brewing beer? You did a good job.
Yeah, it's been a while. We're probably this maybe in the summer we'll do some more. But yeah, it's been about a year and a half.
I'll be of legal age by
unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll wait for that, Steve. So next question from Lori Albright. Lori, you're up with Steve.
I have 3 questions. Can I ask?
Ask one right now. We'll get back to you if we have time.
Okay. Do you get vacation time? And if so, what do you like to do with it?
Yeah, I get vacation, and also I earn comp time when I work overtime. Because that week before the November election, I worked 112 hours, I think, for that week.
Wow.
Well, like to travel, but can't do much of that now. Just kind of hanging out, just recharging the batteries usually. A lot of reading and playing guitar, that kind of stuff. It's kind of nice to be able to just we did a lot of staycations, I guess you could say. And this summer we'll probably be working on reconditioning of deck.
So you play guitar?
Yeah.
So who's your favorite guitarist of all time?
What's that?
Who's your favorite guitarist of all time?
Ooh. Well, I was gonna say Jerry Garcia, but
No.
probably Pete Townsend.
Mm-hmm.
The Who.
Mary Ellen McNulty, you have a question for Steve.
Oh, am I unmuted?
You're unmuted.
Okay, good deal. Hi, Steve.
Hi.
If you could change anything about the Cuyahoga County voting processes, what would it be?
Who?
If you were God of the Cuyahoga County voting processes.
Well, I think I've been talking about it. I would love to go to universal mail voting. One-stop shopping would make it a lot easier. We could all focus on one way and not trying to do 3. But on the smaller level, I think it'd be kind of nice if we could do drop boxes in other places, and also online applications for vote by mail.
Okay.
Let's see. Mr. or Ms. Solomon is up next. Or Glenn, I don't know who's with us. There's only one name here. Whoever you are, you're up with Steve.
You need to unmute yourself.
Or maybe not. So I'll ask the question. So Steve, this is from Pat or Glenn Solomon. How did you choose a society as your UU church home when you came to Cleveland?
When I came to Cleveland, I was looking for a place to live, and the head librarian at the Historical Society was getting ready to go on a Fulbright appointment to teach in Turkey, and he needed somebody to house and dog sit right at the same time. So it just worked out, and they lived down on Overlook. So it was like a 10-minute walk to the society. So that was kind of a no-brainer on that. Plus, I really, I walked in there and I felt really welcome to start off, but it was legit. I think location-wise, it was nice to be able to walk there. So.
Let's see. A lady named Peggy wants to ask a question. It's something about a quart of milk and taking the garbage out.
No, he did that earlier.
Yeah. Took it out yesterday. Jeez.
Yeah, he's got some great stories about the different elections, and I think he knows which one. I would really like people to hear this because I think that's why he enjoys his job so much.
She just wants me to. She just wants to see me cry because I always cry when I tell her. Well, obviously, voting is a right. I mean, it's some people take it a little more seriously than others, and I'd say the ones that I really enjoy working with are new immigrants. Their passion and what they experienced, their other countries where they might not have been able to vote or whatever. They tell us these stories about how they're so happy to be able to do this, and our outreach department would bring them down they'd come down right from getting their citizenship, and they would get registered, and then they come and vote. And it's just so cool to talk to them and just be part of that. It's so how much it means to them. It's just great, and it recharges me because I've talked to some really strange people, and that always is.
So, Lori, you had another question for Steve. You get to ask him another one if you'd like.
What's your cat's name?
Baby.
Baby?
And I did not name it. we got two cats. They're a bonded pair from a shelter a few years ago, and the previous owner had named her Baby, and her brother was Pumpkin Doodle.
Pumpkin Doodle.
Which we shortened to Dude, and he really appreciated it.
I'm sure. Well, it'd be tough. You're right. You're around with the gang of other cats there, and you're being called Pumpkin Doodle, and you feel, like you're a guy, and you're being called Pumpkin Doodle as opposed to Dude. I have to say,
the thing is, he was
Go on,
he was
Steve.
a black and white like tuxedo cat, so it's like, where did the pumpkin come in? We call him that. He just look at us like, don't ever say that again. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. About a year and a half ago, he had some lung issues and he's not with us.
I'm sorry. Hey, our producer Carol Gay had a rather geeky question about this for you. Carol, why don't you unmute yourself and ask Steve your question? That'll be our last question.
Okay, I want to talk about provisional ballots.
Ooh.
Are they counted or are they not?
Most of them are. As long as everything matches up, because most provisional ballots are people didn't update their address with us, and so that provisional envelope pretty much serves like a registration card and updates their address. And I'd say the only reason we would reject a provisional is something wasn't filled out right on the envelope. We get maybe they weren't registered at all before, but I'd say over 90% are counted.
Wow.
You.
So,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting because in my mind, when I think about provisional ballots, I'm thinking, okay, at best it's a coin flip, but it's not a coin flip. In general,
No.
provisional are like real ballots.
Right. Yeah. And now they're counted during the official count, which is like 20 days later. But actually, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, well, it's not on, you don't see the vote counted on election night. It's like, yeah, but you could make the difference in a really close election. Those provisional ballots end up swinging the ballot, the vote the other way. So they're just as important.
Cool, thank you.
So Steve, thanks so much for being our guest and answering those questions. So gang, normally right around now, we'd be reading your emails and texts with your comments and questions and stories. But alas, none of you sent us anything in after our last show. So we've got nothing to read. And I didn't have the time to make stuff up and ascribe it to you. So no readings this time. Carol, can you put up the address, please, for future shows for those who might have things they might want to share? So if you have something you want to share, comment, question, quip, suggestion, what have you, please email us at Zoom-In. That's ZOOMIN, Zoom-In at uucleveland.org. We read everything that comes in the door, and in general, if you read it and you haven't been rude to us, we'll share with everybody else. And so far, we're 10 shows in and no one's been rude yet, so knock on wood about that. And of course, we are not above a little bit of bribery. So if you have been each show we pick out somebody who has had a wonderful question to ask and or comment to make, and we give them one of our mugs as a reward for doing that. Of course, as I always say, liquid is not included. So with that, Steve, again, thanks for being our guest tonight. Will, what about our next show? Who's on next time?
All right. So our next show will be on Monday, January 25th. And our special guest will be Renee Rahutsky. I got it right.
Right the first time.
And she has served as a congregational life consultant in the Central Eastern region of the UUA since 2010. And Renee has a wide range of experience in other UU circles, and she has a wide range of experience in congregations in the region, and is a local community organizer in Kent, Ohio. Wondering about our congregational journey and how that stacks up for the UUA? Then join us on Monday, January 25th. Hope to see you there.
Wow. Outstanding. Thanks, Will. So we're running out of shows. So gang, let's give a major round of applause to Carol Gay, our producer. As I say each show, I do easy stuff. Carol has to make things actually happen.
Hey.
Carol. And a little change for this evening. If you'd like to catch up with your fellow congregants after the show, just stay right here for a chance to chat with your fellow UUs. Carol will get you squared away following our wrap-up music. Speaking of which, we're going to leave you tonight with a Will Barrett selected song called They'll Never Be by Switch. Really nice song. We'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks for the next episode of UUCC Zoom-In Live. Steve and Will, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you all
Good night,
next time.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
there'll never be a better love. Since we are lying here for the first time, you and I, show me what you do for me. And then we'll don't try to hide your nature. No other girl could never reach you. There'll never be a better
Greetings, all.
Hey, Cliff.